Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am here today with a very satisfying video. I am so excited to share with you this one. I haven't done an updated version of this video in a long time. I can't remember when I last did it. I think it might have been like 2, even 3 years ago. But today we are going to go through my whole makeup collection and I'm going to share with you every single pan that I have in my collection. So we're going to talk through base products, cheek products, eyeshadows of course, and all of that kind of stuff. Majority is eyeshadows, and that's kind of just how I do panning, I guess. I hit pan a lot of eyeshadows because it just takes so long to finish them, and it's just very satisfying hitting pan eyeshadows. When it comes to base products and cheek products and stuff like that, I do usually try to tend to roll them in to complete them. So I do hit pan on those type of products too, but I just focus on the same product until I eventually finish it. So those kind of pans rotate through my collection or out of my collection much quicker. But I do still have a couple of base products and that kind of stuff in too. And I'm going to start off with that, and then I'm going to move on to eyeshadows at the end of this video. But before I jump into any of the pans, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So like I said, we're going to start off with the first kind of handful of base and cheek products. And first up we have this product right here. This is the Becca Under Eye Corrector in light medium, which I'm currently trying to pan in my yellow product pan. And I do have a decent sized pan in this product now. It might not be very obvious because every time you use it, it does kind of move around a little bit and the product covers the pan. But yeah, it is quite a large pan now, and hopefully you can see that right there. But that is the first pan I have to share. I do think that is the only base product pan that I have at the moment. I did have a pan in one of my powders, but I repressed that very recently, so that no longer has pan, and that is okay. But we move on to cheek products next, and we have 2 blushes to share. First up is a cream blush, and this is the Melt cream blush light in the shade Cali Dream, which is a very kind of bright creamsicle shade. And as you can see right there, I do have pan on this one. This is a product that I got from my friend. She decluttered it from her collection, gave it to me, and I believe I already had pan on it when she gave it to me. But I have also used it on my own. I have expanded the pan, and I really like this product. So that's the next one that has pan at the moment. And then the second blush that we have is my absolute favorite blush. I love this one so much. It's my go-to, especially for summer. And that is my MAC Extra Dimension Skin Finish in Fairly Precious. It is just such a beautiful, glowy, kind of orangey type of blush, but it's not too like orangey. It's just very subtle and glowy, and it makes you look really healthy, and I just love this blush very much. And as you can see, I do have pan on it there in the center. It is a baked product, and I can see that it's getting quite close to like the grid pattern on this side right here too. I'm very scared of finishing this product, but I do think they make this one and now in the main line. It was originally, I think, limited edition when I first picked it up, but yeah, I do think they have it part of the main line now, but I'm not sure if it's the exact same color. I hope it is, if I ever need to repurchase it. But that is the second blush that I have pan on in my collection, and I do really love this blush a lot. It's again one of my absolute favorites. Last for cheek products, we have 2 highlighters to talk about. First up, we have this one right here. This is the Space Age Gifted Highlighter from Kaleidos. It's one of their multi-chrome highlighters. I have this one, then I have Prophecy, and then I have some of the duochrome highlighters too. But yeah, I absolutely love the highlighters. It's very fun if you want to go for a bit more of a colorful highlight. But this one I had in a project to use, I think 15 or 20 or 30 times, I can't remember how many. But while I had it in the project, I was able to hit the tiniest pan, as you can see right there. It's not a big pan or anything, but I was able to pan on it, so that is the next one that's counting. And then lastly, for cheek products, we have my current pan face palette. This is the MAC Flashing Eyes Extra Dimension Skin Finish Trio, and I have pan in the last shade on this palette, which is called Out on the Tinseltown. It looks like this. Hopefully you've been able to see that in my pan face palette, otherwise that would be a little bit of a spoiler, but I hit pan like not last update but the update before, so it's not too much of a spoiler. But yeah, that one has pan as well, and that is the last pan that I have to share that is non-eyeshadow. Okay, so for eyeshadows, we're going to start off with potted, like individually packed eyeshadows, and then we're going to move on to singles and palettes. But first up we do, like I said, have a couple individual eyeshadows. The first one is one that's currently in my yellow acrylic pan. This is the Stila Magnificent Metal in the shade Metallic Peach, and this one has a massive pan on it. I'm currently trying to finish it, but yeah, you can see that it looks very well loved, and I've been working on this one for quite a while now, but that is the next pan. We have another kind of potted product, which is one of my ColourPop Super Shock shadows. I don't have very many left of them, but I think this might be the only one that I have left in my collection. Let me check. Yeah, I think I decluttered or used up all of the other ones. This is the only one that I kept because it is such an interesting color to me, and that is this shade right here called Fantasy, and as you can see I do have pan on this one too. And then lastly, for individual kind of packed eyeshadows, we have this shade from NARS. This is the, what are they called, Dual Intensity eyeshadows, and this one is in shade Calistro, which is a beautiful cool toned silvery taupe kind of shade, and you can see there that I have pan on it there in the center. So we're moving on to eyeshadows in palettes and magnetic palettes next. So I'm going to start off with these, which are magnetic eyeshadows. They have either been originally palettes and depotted, or they are just magnetic singles. So we have quite a few. First up we do have my Panda palette, which is my Panda BYOP, and again, if you don't want spoilers, check out my last update first, because I don't, you know, obviously I will show you the palette, so make sure to check that out. As of showing you this, it's I'm pre-filming this, so it probably will look different now when I'm posting it, but for now this is what this palette looks like. And as you can see, I have pan on every single shade in here apart from this shade, which I actually finished. I finished this one very recently, I think it was yesterday, so very recent empty, but you can see that I have a lot of pans in here. This one's very close to being finished, and this one is a bit harder to see because the eyeshadow keeps moving over the pan, but I do have pan in every single shade in this palette, which is so satisfying to look at. Then let's continue on to more singles, and we have this palette right here, which is full of singles. These are majority of the eyeshadows that I have pan on in my singles collection. So I don't have too many pans considering how many singles I have, but I have really tried to make an effort this year to work on my singles more. So hopefully by the end of this year I will have way more eyeshadow pans in my singles. But these are all of the ones. I'm not going to go through every single one what the shades are, because there's just a lot of them in here, but it's a mix of loads of brands. We have some pressed glitters, Terra Moons, we have Glam Shop, we have ColourPop, Makeup Geek. What else do we have? I think that might be majority of them. The Pastel Roses. Yeah, I think that's the main brands that are in here. So they're some of my older singles, which is why I have pans on some of them. These ones here are actually really old ones. They're potted from Isadora. It was a palette that I had, and I've had pan on those for ages. And then in this corner here you can see some of my ColourPop depotted singles, which also has pans. Some of these are from my Panda palette in order. But yeah, I do have pan on all those so ColourPop shades, and they are currently kind of counted as singles in my collection because they are no longer in the original palette, but they were originally from ColourPop palettes. So those are all of the singles that I currently have pan on in my collection. Well, for the most part, I do kind of have this palette here too, which also is full of ColourPop singles that have been depotted, and I have pan on every single one in here. I'm hosting them in here, and I made like a little palette for myself, which I haven't used much, but I feel like it's a beautiful color story. It's like a good everyday type of color story for me, but again I have pan on every single shade in here, which is super satisfying. It is in a palette, but they are all singles for me. This is obviously not what this palette looked like originally, so even though they're housed in here, I do count these ones as singles in my collection too, but pan on every single one here as well. So those again are the singles. Let's move on to palettes next, and we're going to start off with my Anastasia palettes. I have pan on I think all of my Anastasia palettes, so there's quite a few things to share. We're going to start off with my second half of my Panda palette, which is the Soft Glam palette. I've been working on this one for quite a while. It is currently frankened, so not everything in here has pan, but the ones that don't have pan, oh actually no, there's one original shade that doesn't have pan, but it, again, if you haven't seen my update, make sure to check that out if you don't want some spoilers. But this is what this palette looks like, and you can see there's a lot of pan showing. I have some empty shades as well, and pan on basically every single shade apart from the Frankens, like here in the center, and then Noir is the one original shade that doesn't have pan. My goal is of course to hit pan on that one before the end of the year, and then ideally finish the rest of the palette. But that is the first palette, again with loads of juicy pan, which is very, very nice to see. We are just gonna go through the palettes in the way that I have them next to me, no particular order apart from brand. Next up we have my Amrezy palette, also from Anastasia of course, and this one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pans in it. So this is what it looks like. You can see that I have pan on this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So a good amount of pan in this palette. It's definitely one that I really do enjoy, but I haven't shown a lot of love to recently, so maybe I should make sure to roll one of these shades into one of my kind of projects at some point, just to show it a bit more love. But 5 pans is pretty good in a palette, so I'm not too unhappy about it. We then have my Sultry palette, and this palette has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pans in it. Again, really good. I have pan on this shade, this shade, this shade, this shade, this one here, and this one here. So pretty good amount, not quite half. There's 14 shades in here, so half would be 7, but very close to half of the shades in here have pan. I really do love this palette, especially for more of a cool tone look. It is a little bit older in my collection, so I should be again showing it some more love. I feel like my Anastasia palettes are some of the oldest ones in my collection. This one is not the oldest, but it's definitely getting up there. So yeah, I'm glad that it has some use, but I would also like to see some more dips and stuff in the rest of the shades. Then the next palette is my Subculture, but if you are aware of my collection, this is actually not the original Subculture palette. This is a mix between the Subculture and the Jackie Aina palette. I saved my favorite shades from both palettes and I made this beautiful, beautiful color story, which I am absolutely in love with. It's a perfect kind of autumnal color story, but this is what this one looks like. Again, it is a mix between the Subculture and the Jackie Aina, and I have a lot of pans in here just because I did end up saving my, again, favorite shades from both palettes. Of course, those were the ones that had a lot of pans. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pans. I did have 11, but I did lose the pan in Ginger when I depotted it because it's crumbled a little bit, so I had to repress it, but I'm pretty sure I'm close to pan there too. But yeah, a lot of pans in this palette, and it's looking very well loved, and I absolutely love this color story and this palette overall, so I'm glad that it's looking so well loved. And then lastly, for Anastasia palettes, we have my Norvina palette. This one is another favorite in my collection, and I do have a lot of pans in here too. I have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pans. So again, a very, very well loved palette. I have pan on all of the shimmers apart from the last one, which is Drama. Yeah. And then I have pan on this one, this one, this one, and that one. The next brand that we have to move on to is ColourPop, and I have pan on 4 of the palettes. I believe these are all of my ColourPop palettes that I have left in my collection too now. But first up we have my Mandalorian the Child palette. I absolutely love this palette. It's one of my favorites. I just love the color story. I love the undertones of the greens. They're just so like neutral leaning. They're not neutral, but like for me they just feel very neutral, and they're very, very wearable. And I actually have pan on every single shade in here apart from the one of the most neutral shades, which is this one here called Just Like a Tatooine. But yeah, everything else has pan, and I do absolutely adore this palette, so I'm glad that it looks very well loved, because it really is. And every time I make a look with this palette, I love how it turns out. So again, very happy that the palette is reflecting that. The other 9 pan palette that I have pan on is the Going Coconuts palette. This one doesn't have as many pans. It has 3 pans showing, so not as well loved. But I have pan on this one shade, this shade, and this shade. But yeah, the rest don't really have any pans or anything, but they're a bit harder pressed for the most part, not all of them. But yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why it doesn't have more pans than 3. Also, it's just nowhere near as well loved as the Mandalorian the Child palette. But yeah, still happy that I have a couple pans in here, but again, not as many as I maybe would like. Then we have 2 more palettes to talk about from ColourPop. We have the At First Sight from Huda Beauty Christie in collaboration with ColourPop. And this one I had in is my Pro Level Up palette, so I hit pan on 3 shades in here. And honestly, apart from those 3 pans, this palette is quite untouched. I was handed this to me, or like I was passed it down from, again, a friend, same friend as I mentioned earlier. And yeah, again, it's been very not loved in my collection. Of course, used it for that project, but I just need to show this palette a bit more love. It's, for me, it feels very autumnal, so maybe I need to make sure to reach for this one. It's autumn. But yeah, I have pan on this shade, as you can see, and then these two shimmers. But that is the next palette, and definitely one I need to give a bit more love to. And then the last palette from ColourPop that I have is the Sweet Talk palette. This one is a very old palette in my collection, but I love it still, nevertheless. And again, even though I love it, I don't have too many pans in here either. I only have 3 again. I have pan on this shade, and this shade, right? Yes. But at least I do have some more dips in here, and it does look a bit more used than the Huda Beauty Christie palette. But yeah, nothing too extreme. It's also worth noting that 2 of the shades in here have been switched out. The 2 pressed glitters I replaced with actual like shimmer shadows, and I have those 2 in like my singles collection. The shade Prima Drama is actually in my BYOP that I'm trying to finish this year. That was that little pressed glitter shade that was so close to being done. That is Prima Drama. But yeah, I don't reach for pressed glitters in like everyday looks as much. So whenever I want to reach for them, I just pull out my singles, because then I know where they are, and I'd rather have just regular shimmers in palettes. So that's kind of why I decided to replace them. But the 2 shades that I did replace that with are very similar to the 2 that I put in here. So that is the next palette, and again the final one from ColourPop. The next brand we're moving on to is Natasha Denona, and I have a lot of Natasha Denona palettes in my collection, but not that many have pan. I have 4 palettes with pan. 2 of them are mini palettes, 2 of them are more of the bigger size palettes. But we're going to start off with the mini palettes. The first one is this here, which is the mini gold palette. Also again, got this gifted to me or passed down to me from that same friend. Very grateful. But it didn't have any pans on it when I got it from her. I rolled this one into my product level up level 5, so I had to reach for every single shade. I had to hit pan on every single shade. But I really love doing that because I absolutely love greens. I haven't been reaching for them as much this year or even last year as I normally do. But in general, I absolutely love green eyeshadow, so this one was a really fun one to work on, and I'm glad that this one has pan in every single shade. And then the second one is this palette right here, which is the mini retro palette. And I'm trying to remember if this one was also in a product level up. I think it might have been, but I do have 4 pans in here. I have pan on every single shade apart from the middle one. I absolutely love this one. This is definitely a very unique color story, but also a very, very wearable color story. And I just love the way this one was curated. I love the looks you can make with this one. It is a very kind of no-brainer palette, but I do really enjoy it nevertheless, and I'm glad again that it looks very well loved in my collection. And then, like I said, I do have 2 more kind of standard sized Natasha Denona palettes that I have pan on. The first one is the Love palette, which I do have 1 pan in. I worked on the shade Commitment in my Pandos eyeshadows. I believe it was randomized and I was able to pan on it. It is one of her cream to powder mattes, so it was a bit easier. I did actually work on this shade here called Valentine as well in my Pandos eyeshadows. I reached for it 20 times, but as you can see, nowhere near pan, but I do have a dip in it now. So yeah, I do have 1 pan in here. Definitely could have more, but this one is not my favorite Natasha Denona palette. So even though it is a little bit older, I do think if I was to focus on hitting pan on more Natasha Denona palettes, this probably wouldn't be the one that I would focus on. I would focus on some of the ones that I like a bit more. And then the final Natasha Denona palette that I have pan on is actually my oldest Natasha Denona palette, and that is the Metropolis palette. I absolutely love this one. It was again the first one that I picked up, and I have 2 pans in here. I have pan on this shade here. I think it's called Jubilee. Yeah, it is. And then this shade, where is it here, called Queen. So those are the 2 pans that I have in here, just those 2 there. I believe Jubilee I definitely worked on in Pandos eyeshadows, and Queen, I can't remember where I worked on that one, but might have been Pandos eyeshadows again, or might have been a different project. But yeah, 2 pans in this palette, could definitely have more. This is one that I could see myself focusing on hitting more pans on and getting more use out of, because again it is a little bit older, and I just think it's such a beautiful color story, and it's such a handy palette to have as well. It is quite warm leaning, but it's still good for like everyday kind of looks and stuff like that. So that is the last Natasha Denona palette that I currently have pan on. The next brand we have is one that I have quite a few palettes with. I didn't realize how many palettes I had with them until recently. But that is Odin's Eye, and I do have pan on quite a few. I think I have 5 palettes that I have pan on. The first one is the Red Dragon palette, which was in collaboration with Judy. I have worked on this one a lot last year especially, but this year too. I've been working on it a little bit. I think I had this one again in my product level up. I can't remember if it was for level 2. I think it was level 2, yeah. So I had 2 more pans this year, and again, I've worked on it last year. I'm currently working on one of the shades in my pan of eyeshadows. I'm actually wearing it today. But this one is now looking a bit more well loved. You can see that I have pan on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shades, which is very exciting. And then this red is the one I'm working on in my pan of eyeshadows. So who knows, maybe I'll hit pan on 1 more shade in here. But overall, very happy that this one is looking so well loved. It is one of my oldest Odin's eye palettes. This one with another one I'm going to talk about later were the first 2 I ever picked up from them. Let's actually talk about that palette next, the one that is also one of my oldest ones, and that is the Elva palette. This one I think they have either discontinued or reformulated, but I absolutely love this palette. It was one that I lusted over for a long time, and I eventually picked it up when I decided to go for the Red Dragon palette too. And I do have 1 pan in here, which is the first shade in the palette. It's just an easy kind of, it looks like a setting shade, but it's a bit deeper for me, so it's more of a transition type of shade. But yeah, I hit pan on that shade, and again, I'm currently working on another shade in here, my pan of eyeshadows, which is this shade down there called Peony. But yeah, that one I am hopeful that I can hit pan on, but we'll see. But overall, I think this is definitely a palette that I want to show some more love, because I do really adore it. And I feel like this one gets a bit of a bad rep. Like, I feel like a lot of people don't like it, but I think it's absolutely beautiful. And the shimmers in here are super impactful and glittery and absolutely stunning. So I do love this palette, and I would love to show it a bit more love. And then the last 3 palettes that I have are all Christmas releases. It's 3 out of 4 Christmas releases. We have them right here. We're going to start off with this one, which is I think the most recent pan that I hit, and this is the Snow Dream palette, which was a Christmas release not last year but the year before, so 2023. And I have pan on the shade Hugs right there. I rolled this one into my deco panning for, like, what's it called, for product level up, so it was like represent a different project, and I decided to do product level up on it level 1, which meant hitting 1 pan and using every single shade once. But yeah, I hit pan on this one. It's quite a small pan, but I'm hoping you can see it right there. Then from the same release we have the Hey Reindeer palette, which I do also have 1 pan on, and that is this shade right here called Christmas Ham. It's just like an iridescent inner corner type of shade. I mean, you can use it as a topper too, but yeah, I use it mainly as an inner corner. It's like a pink to gold type of shifty shade. But yeah, that is the pan that I have in this palette. Again, only 1. Then for sure the Odin's Eye palette that has gotten the most love, mainly because it was my product level up level, I think 4 palette, is this one right here called Merry Christmas. This one was also a Christmas release from the year before. So this one was originally released in 2022, but I didn't pick it up. I actually picked it up when it was re-released in 2023, same time, like so December 2020, or it might have been November 2023 when I picked up those other 2 palettes. So I got a bundle with all 4 Christmas palettes. But yeah, this one I've had around for the same amount of time, and I currently have 4 pans in here. I have pan on this one, which I think is Elfish. I think this one is Little Star. This one is Little Star. This one is Snowman, and then this one here is called Santa Star. So 4 pans. And again, the palette got a lot of love in that project because I had to reach for every single shade 4 times too. But absolutely love this palette. It's such a high quality palette, and I'm happy that it's looking quite well loved. So we do of course have a couple more palettes to go, and the next brand we're going to tackle is Huda Beauty. And first up we have the Nude Light Obsessions palette. This one has 4 pans in it. Again, I was working on this one in my product level up. I was working on it for level 1, where I hit pan on this shade right here, but on top of that I also have pan on these 3 shades. So it's looking quite loved. It is definitely one of my favorite palettes just for easy everyday soft type of looks, and these undertones are just right up my alley, so I'm happy that it's having quite a few pans. I could definitely give the other shades some more love, but overall I'm just happy that it's kind of reflecting how I feel about it with the amount of pans in here. Then a palette that is very well loved is the Gold Obsession palette. I worked on this one as my palette in 2023, and I was able to finish all shades but 3, and since then I've been slowly working my way through them. And right now I only have 1 shade left in here, which is this deepest shade. It's the deep dark brown, and my goal is to eventually finish it, but as you can see I do have pan on that one right now, and it's the single pan or eyeshadow standing in here that is left. But I know that it's going to be quite a commitment finishing a deep brown like that. and considering I have a lot of kind of deeper shades in my palette for this year, I decided to wait with that one. But I think next year is going to be the year that I'm going to tackle this shade and finally have this palette out. And then the other two Huda Beauty palettes that I have are like this type of size. We have the Mercury Retrograde palette, which is one of the first ones I picked up. I picked this one up at the same time as the... Well, actually, did I pick up the Gold Obsessions first? I think the Gold Obsession might have been the first one I picked up, and then I picked up this one and the Nude Light at the same time. And then the next one I'm going to talk about is my newest one. But yeah, this is what this one looks like. I do have two pans, I believe, in here. Yeah, I do. I have pan on this shade and this shade. So not the most. It could definitely have a few more pans. It could definitely be a bit more loved. But at least the shades in here do have some dips and things like that. So it doesn't look untouched. But again, I wish I maybe had a little bit more use on it. And then the final palette that I have from Huda Beauty is the Rose Quartz palette. This is probably my favorite palette from her. And this one currently has 1, 2, 3 pans. And I'm currently working on a fourth shade in my Kaleidos eyeshadows. So I have pan on this shade, and this shade. And then again, I'm working on this shade right now in my Kaleidos eyeshadow, so hopefully again I can have pan on a fourth shade very, very soon. But yeah, absolutely love this palette. I haven't had it in my collection for that long. I mean, I know time flies and I feel like I've had some of these palettes for longer than it feels like, but overall absolutely love this one, and I'm happy that it's getting a lot of love straight away and not just sitting in my collection, because I do really, really love this one, and I think it is such a beautiful formula. It's very impactful and the mattes blend really nicely, and it's just such a unique undertone as well, which again is kind of more rosier, softer leaning, which is kind of the type of looks that I'm going for at the moment. So yeah, absolutely love this one, and I'm going to definitely make sure to give this one a lot of love in kind of winter time, because that is the season that I love this palette the most. The next brand we have to talk about is Kaleidos, and I have two palettes from Kaleidos and I have pan on both of those. The first one is the Sashimi City palette. I really love this one too. It is just it's a 6-pan palette, and I have pan on 4 of the shades, so again it's quite a well-loved palette. I think again I had this one in my product level up, and I also worked on it in my Kaleidos eyeshadows, things like that. But I love this palette. Again, it is that kind of softer undertone. This one is definitely more warm tone though, but I just love this palette very much, and it's an easy one for me to make looks with. It doesn't go too deep, and it's just one that I can easily reach for on the everyday. So very, very glad that it's showing a lot of love. And then the second palette from Kaleidos that I have is the Club Nebula palette, another one that I do really love. And I do have a decent amount of pans in here now. I have pan on all of the shimmers, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. So 6 shades in here, which are all the shimmers. The mattes unfortunately don't have any pans, but at least it is looking quite loved. And even though I don't have any pans on the mattes, they do have some dips. I have a dip in Gravity, in Queen of Blade and Naru, even a little bit in Asemas. So I'm happy that this one is looking quite loved. It is definitely getting up there in age. It's not one of my oldest palettes by any means, but it still is quite old, and I would love to get some more use out of this one. But it's quite a ColourPop palette, so it's not the easiest one for me to reach for every single day, but it's definitely one that I love reaching for when filming, or if I want to do more of a colourful look on the weekends, stuff like that. So I'm going to try to make an effort to give this one some more love, and hopefully hit pan on some of the mattes in here. Okay, so we don't have that many palettes left. We do have, I think, 5 palettes left, and we have them between 3 brands. The next brand we have is Sydney Grace, and we have the California Coast palette next, which I have 2 pans in. This one is just a beautiful neutral type of color story again. It's a bit more rosier, a bit more cool toned, and I really love the undertones in here, but I have pan on the 2 lightest shade, this one here and this one here. So that is how this one is looking. Then the second of my Sydney Grace palette that has pans is the Tiny Marvels palette. Absolutely adore this palette. It's one of my absolute favorites in my collection. And even though the pans are so deep, they're so deep in here, I do have 1 pan. And that is in the first shade in the palette, this one right here. I do have a really good dip in this shade and that shade, and just across some of the other shades too. But again, the pans are very deep. I don't know if you can see that right there in this pan, but it's a lot of effort to hit pan on this palette, but I'm happy that I do have that pan, and hopefully eventually I can hit pan on more of this palette, because like I said, it's one of my absolute favorites in my collection. Then we have another brand that has 2 palettes to talk about, and that is Beauty Bay. I do have, I think these are the only 2 Beauty Bay palettes that I still have left in my collection. I have decluttered the rest, but this is the Wilderness palette, which is a beautiful kind of vibrant color story. It's like, I kind of always describe this one as an autumnal rainbow palette, and this one has quite a few pans. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pans in here, so very well loved, and I do really love this one if I want to go for a colorful look, especially more in like autumn. But there is some pops of colors here, so it does work all year round, but overall beautiful palette, beautiful formula, and I do really love this one whenever I reach for it. And then the second one of my Beauty Bay palettes is even more well loved, and that is the Love Notes palette, which is just a softer color story again. It is right up my alley. It's the type of shades that I love. I do think I have 8 pans in here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 8 pans, which is a lot. Obviously it is a larger palette, so there's still a lot of pans, a lot of shades in here that don't have pan. But I'm really happy that it's looking so loved, because it is definitely another palette that I really adore, especially if I want to go for those softer looks. It does still have some like colorful undertones, but again, it just runs very light, so I don't have to worry about it if I don't want like a super smoky or anything look. And then this one is definitely one that I pull out. We have come to the very last palette and item in this video, and that is my Viseart Paris Edit palette. I worked on this one in my product level up, and I had it in for level 3, which meant I had to hit 3 pans in here, and I had no pans in it before that point, but I was able to pan on those 3 shades. So it is this shade, and that shade, so we do have a couple pans showing. I was really anxious about hitting pan, not anxious, that's over exaggerating, but I was like worried about hitting pan on it for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's going to be quite difficult, which yes, it was for some shades, not for others, but also just like I love traveling with this palette, and I was worried about hitting pan on it, but I do feel like it's still holding up pretty well, and I'm glad it's getting some love. And you know, I can't have a palette knowing that I'm never going to hit pan on it. I can't just save it for certain occasions like traveling and things like that. So I'm really happy that I did end up keeping this one in my level up, just because I did get those 3 pans, and this palette is finally reflecting how I feel about it, because it's another one that I really do like in my collection. So I'm happy that it has some pans to show that. But there you go, guys, that is all of the pans in my collection at the moment. Again, of course, majority of them are focused in my eyeshadows, and that's just how it is. I have, like, I mean, if you look at every individual pan of eyeshadow, like not the hit pan, but like the little eyeshadow, that is by far the highest number category in my collection. I have over 1,000 eyeshadows, so of course it is going to be mainly focused in that category, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed seeing all my eyeshadow pans and all my non-eyeshadow pans too. Yeah, I think I'm going to wrap up the video here, because I am suspecting this one is going to be quite a long one, so I'm not going to ramble on for too long. But I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Let me know which pan you hit most recently. For me, what did I hit pan on most recently? I believe it was a pan in my pan palette in order, the blue ColourPop shade, if you follow that project, is the shade Detour from the Mar palette. That I believe is my most recent pan. But let me know what your most recent pan is. I would love to hear from you, and otherwise I'll catch you in my next one. Bye guys!